Tonight on Let's Talk Motorsport, World Superbike and MotoGP superstar Colin Edwards. And our studio guest from the Australian Motor Racing Series is Matt Baragwanath. And ASBK gun Troy Herfoss.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Motorsport. Thanks for joining us yet again. Tonight we have another great array of guests. First up, we've got the Series Manager of the Australian Motor Racing Series, AMRS. Started a few years ago, but it seems to be going from strength to strength. So let's catch up with the boss, Matt Baragwanath. Matt, welcome to Let's Talk Motorsport and being our first guest up post-lockdown.
Oh, thanks, Braxy, and thanks very much for the opportunity to come in here, and fantastic to be able to come and join you in the studio today. And we'll be able to just gently ease out of some of the Corona-19 restrictions. So, yeah, good to be here.
So, Matt, talk us through, it's a new series. A lot of people maybe haven't heard of the Australian Motor Racing Series, AMRS. Tell us a bit about that, where the embryo started and where's it started and where's it gone to from when it commenced? Yeah,
sure, thanks. So AMRS was launched in 2018 and beginning of 2018, and it was very much from infancy down to being born from the need that categories were demonstrating to us at the Benalla Auto Club, that then there was a need for another series outside, be it the Shannon's Motorsport Series or other state series, as a stepping stone, that if you're going to go club level, go state series, and then it was a big step to go from state to national, and a big step from a commercial perspective, particularly financial perspective. So we're sort of in that sort of middle there. It's a travelling national series, which but it's not at exorbitant pricing, and that's, to be really frank, that's what the feedback is that people are happy to go to and travel around Australia, but just don't want the overly exorbitant entry fees. That just costs a lot of money.
So how much is an entry fee?
Well, look, generally speaking, for a 3-day race meeting with AMRS, it's just your entry fee is $650, and then depending which venue we go to is your garage fee if you want a garage, or if you want to bring your truck and put your annex out, there's no charge at all. But if depending which venue, there's a garage or a carport fee over and above that, and essentially the model around AMRS is that you're buying track time, and how we split it up, it's 160 minutes to 230 minutes of track time. So what we do is do our absolute very best to say, if you're a category that comes in and says, I want 160 minutes of track time, honestly, I really don't mind how we split it up. If you want, 3 practice sessions and 2 races, or if you want 1 practice session, a quali and 3 races, I don't mind how we split it up. It's your time to split up, and very much on you as the category to say, we in the past have had more races and less practice, or more practice and just give us 1 race or whatever. I don't mind. And from that perspective, it works. And, obviously you're always going to have things if there's an incident or an all down or something like that, so you may well be chasing time. But, in my time running the series, there hasn't been a time yet where we haven't delivered our track time. And we always do our absolute best. And even if you have an incident on a Saturday afternoon and a category might lose their race, we'll start earlier on the Sunday if we can and give you your race back, as an example. So it's just about that open line of communication, not this is how we do things and all these type of things. So, yeah. How many classes have you got involved in it now? Yeah, so we've got travelling categories which come to all our rounds, and if we're holding 7 rounds, we were holding 7 rounds this year before Corona. So if we talk about pre-Corona, so we're holding 7 rounds for the series, and we have Super GT, TA2, miniature race cars, Formula 3 as our core season, as I call season categories, and we're coming to pretty much all the rounds. And then we've got some other categories which might come and do a couple of rounds, like National Series Formula Ford. Those guys obviously want to come to Tailem, or they want to come to Sydney Motorsport Park, or the like. We've got other more local categories. When we go to Queensland, the local XL category up there, a very strong category. They're coming to join us. So at any race meeting, we've got 6 or 7 categories on track, and we have fun. We don't try not to make it too serious. There's always that obviously element of seriousness around motorsport. You've got to be safe. You've got to be keeping things on time, and people have got to feel like they're getting bang for buck. And that's absolutely my prime directive to my guys, is that we've got to give them value for money, and value add back to the competitor. And I'll gladly sit here and say that I'm confidently saying that 99.9% of our competitors, if not 100%, always have a good weekend, and they go away at the end of the weekend saying that was great. So to me, that's what it's all about. So yeah.
So is this an extension of the Australian Autosport Alliance that has been around for probably well over a decade by now? It started from the Benalla Sports Club again.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So AASA started going, if we could turn the clock right back. So the late Mick Ronk, whom was chairman at Winton Motor Raceway for many, many years, was started by him, again as an identification that he felt that there was a direct need in the marketplace to have a alternate sanctioning opportunity to people in motorsport, in four-wheel and at the time two-wheel and four-wheel motorsport. To God bless his soul, he had the nous to sort of get it off the ground, and it's grown from something which was, in the back office at Winton as something which was sort of, an alternative business, to now thriving into the business of it's got a standalone office up in Wangaratta now, and it employs anywhere up to 4 or 5 staff at a time, it insures and permits a lot of events and gives people a lot of licenses, and so essentially AMRS is it's essentially a business of Benalla Auto Club. But obviously it's sanctioned by AASA, and so it's all about AASA's national series, to which, so we work hand in hand essentially, obviously because we're both owned by Benalla Auto Club, to deliver the national series motorsport. So, yeah.
So tell us a bit about yourself, because if the series started in 2018, you sound like you've got a fair amount of experience.
Oh.
Well, we've known each other for a few years.
We have known each other for a lot of years, Braxy. I've got, going back extensive, from a voluntary capacity, extensive motorsport history as a long-time volunteer in motorsport, both two and four-wheel, but particularly four-wheeled, going back to early days of Winton, being safety team up there, and MG Car Club, being competition director and on the board of directors of MG Car Club for many years, and then fast forward a little bit, being a competitor at both a club level for many years, and then into state series doing motor racing. Fast forward a little bit further, motorsport manager at Sandown for nearly 3 years, and then jump ahead a little bit further, was operations manager at Wakefield Park from 2015 to latter part of 2018. So. And look, it's Wakefield Park especially was at that sort of crossroad, I think, and that crossroad was that we had to grab it with both hands, and from a political perspective, key stakeholder perspective up there locally, and really drive it in a direction which to see us working with local residents with around noise complaint issues and things like that, and working with competitor bases to get them back there, and categories, and working to invest back in the venue, and to keep do capital projects and things like that. So fairly extensive history in motorsport, both particularly from a voluntary capacity, and then later in life in a professional capacity. So there's not much about motorsport I don't love, I've got to say. So
well, that's what keeps us in it, is the passion.
It is, Braxy, and you and I have worked together how many times now at bike meetings, but ASBK and historic motorsport and things like that. And you were very supportive of me when you used to come up to Wakefield and all that kind of stuff. There's driven the medical car, as you probably will receive through through Race Safe and that kind of stuff many times as well. So many hats, I think, is the way they say. So,
now, what's the growth been like of AMRS? Now, I suppose it's had the hiccup, obviously. We won't try and talk on the negatives of what this coronavirus has done to everything.
Yeah.
But where it is, because everybody thinks of motorsport and they immediately think of the mobile taxis, the V8 supercars.
Yeah. Oh, well, look, you know, we're obviously, and our V8s have their market, and their market is what it is, and whether it's through pay TV or free to air, or that's a discussion we'll leave for those another time. But look, you know, AMRS has grown and developed from inception in 2018, where it had some smaller style categories. It's now grown that, you know, very successfully through the latter part of 2018 into 2019, and the plans especially into 2020 is, you know, in the off season from 19 to 20. You know, being quite frank, we literally tipped the series on its head and turned around and said, okay, we need a far better TV production, so let's go to market for that, because that's what our clients wanted and they were willing to pay for it. So that's what we did. Go to some circuits where we are welcomed, and go to some circuits where people want to go. So it's about listening to the competitor base and say, hey, we'd really like to go there. You know, we don't want to go, you know, we've got a lot of invitations, as an example, to go up to Hidden Valley, up in NT. But, you know, there's that whole thing. I mean, you know, to go up there, it's a week's travel when you're towing up there, and then a week's travel back. It's a chunk of time to go and deliver it. And honestly, we could go up there whenever we wanted to deliver it, but it's about guys that want to go and spend 2 weeks on the road to be able to go to a race meeting. So we carefully designed the calendar for 2020 around having some good gaps. So, you know, the last thing you want to do is have a race meeting, then 2 weeks later have your next one. Someone, you know, blows up a car or has a crash or something, they want to be able to fix it. So, you know, we very much openly sort of say, like, absolute minimum, if not 4, if not 6 weeks in between each round, and we just sort of space it around the countryside as best we could. And so it's, you know, some great sponsors on board. You know, Bowden's is just one of them. Bowden's own car care products, so they were fantastic. Particularly at our first round at Winton at the end of February, they gave a cleaning product to basically nearly every competitor who got placings and all that kind of stuff when it comes to their presentation. And I'm talking good sized buckets, you know, quite expensive buckets. So, you know, it's great supporters and partners like that we have along to the series, that again about that value add back to the competitor, which makes it just a bit more friendly to come along and, geez, get one of those buckets, it'd be great. So yeah. And I'm very proud to say, look, you know, over the time, and you know, and I'll just pick one particular one, the RX8 series, which took off at an inception of AMRS in 2018. Started off with, you know, 5, 6, maximum sort of 10 cars to a round. You know, got into 2019, and next thing is up to sort of 15 to 18. And this year, it's, you know, if they have less than 30 cars, you'd be surprised. So that was a category born from AMRS. Okay, and so they ran with the series in 2019. They're doing some other stuff in 2020 with some state series things. But you know, I'm in constant communication with them, and I know they'll be back to join us at some stage soon. But that's just a prime example of, you know, us developing a category from, you know, they made the approach to the then management team of AMRS in 2018. Look, you know, we want to run in national, but we don't want to go and spend $5,000 on an entry fee and then have to take our cars everywhere. So that's a prime example of how we've supported the sport and to get this category off the ground. And now look at it, and it's just, you know, it's a success story which I'll gladly boast, because if it wasn't for us to give them that initial sort of track time, and now look at they're going gangbusters. So it's a good news story.
Obviously, now we're getting into the second half of 2020. Now things are starting to. Have you been able to manage a calendar?
The phone calls have picked up again, and the emails have started flowing again, and particularly this week and the latter part of last week. So where we're at the moment is talking to circuits for reopening in the latter part of July, and obviously there's a lot of provisos around that, you know, particularly government, you know, regulation and government, you know, being able to enter a state with border control and things like that. So that's an absolute key. But certainly we're in discussions. The competitor groups have expressed that, you know, we have a calendar planned, which is basically Queensland from August and SMP in September and back to Wakefield in November. Those dates we are committed to, and we're certainly intending to deliver. You know, government approval pending. And what I would like to be able to do is revisit, because we've had to cancel Morgan Park, which was beginning of April, and we've had to postpone Tail and Bend, which was end of May. Ideally love us to be able to deliver Tail and Bend, because there's a lot of, particularly the GT and the TA2 guys especially, and National Series Formula Ford, that everyone's pretty excited to go there. It's a good high-speed track and it's a real driver's track. So there's a lot of excitement to go there, and so I'm working very closely, literally as we speak. Even this morning I was on a phone conversation with the management team at Tailem, how we can do it commercially, and how we make it fit around the calendar for AMRS, that it's not too close to the Queensland round, but yet we can make it work for us commercially to be able to go there. So
all the best for it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll get you back in here again, and even maybe one or two of your high-profile drivers to come in here and have a bit of a chat about it.
For sure. And look, we've got there's a couple of GT guys and even TA2 guys I know which are Victorian based, so we can I'm sure we can work out a way to get them in here, Braxy. So thanks very much for the opportunity. Great to see you, and good luck with Let's Talk Motorsport for the rest of the year, mate. So,
no worry. Well, we're fledgling as well. So
that's right.
Give us a bit of support as well. But
definitely.
Thanks, Matt, for coming in. I'd shake your hand, but we're still social distancing.
That's right. Yeah.
But see you again very soon. And thanks to Matt for coming in. And we'll be back with more on Let's Talk Motorsport very soon. Make sure to visit letstalkmotorsport.com.au, where you can upload your race bike or car or kart and show us what you've got. It's easy, and we want to share your passion with others right here on the show. While you're there, you can visit our YouTube channel with loads of videos to catch up on, and follow us on Facebook. letstalkmotorsport.com.au, one destination with the lot. Well, the AMRS seems to be going from strength to strength, and they're ready to get back on track like everybody else in the motorcycle and motorsports fraternity. Now, let's turn our attention to two wheels and catch up part one of our interview with the two times Australian Superbike champion, Troy Herfoss from the Penrite Honda team. Well, g'day Troy Herfoss, thanks for joining us on Let's Talk Motorsport. I wish you were in the studio, or I wish we were at a racetrack, but it is what it is. And how are you handling it, mate?
Thanks for having me, Braxy. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? We're all at home waiting to go racing again, or to do whatever we want to do in life, really. But yeah, it's been a funny few months for us, and Emily, my wife's been busy at work. She's a nurse, so I've been at home doing a few jobs and trying to keep fit, really.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to take too long to get into the fitness thing, because there's nothing that would account for bike fitness as far as doing laps go. We all know that, but whatever you do is not really going to compensate much for being on the fitness of the bike and the high intensity, is it? As many Ks on a push bike as you'd like to do.
Yeah, that's right. It's and I find it's really hard trying to stay fit when there's no real. I mean, there's an end goal as far as we're going to go racing again, but we don't really know when. And yeah, it feels like you're just going out and keeping fit, for the sake of it. And when you're doing as much training as us guys do, you sort of want to have an end goal there, and or a deadline of when we're going to be racing again or doing whatever sport it is you're into. So.
Tell us how it all started. Well, you've told me, but tell the world how it all started back down there in Goulburn when you were a youngster.
Yeah, like you said, Braxy, I've told you the story. We've known each other a long time. So I was sort of born into motorbikes. My mum and dad, well, my dad loves motor racing and dirt bikes, and mum was always going away with dad camping and riding, and there was I think the group of friends they were with all were into motorcycling. So yeah, I think the story goes the first 6 weeks I was alive, I'd been to 4 different racetracks around the state. So I never really had a choice, did I? But yeah, it didn't take long for me to want to ride a motorbike. And yeah, my dad Mark is a really passionate rider, and he's actually a really good rider as well. So he's got a couple of national dirt track titles, and yeah, classic dirt track even in his later years. So yeah, he's been a good guy to look up to, and I've never really needed a riding coach because Dad was a bit of an all-rounder in his day, and yeah, he's been a really big help for me, and it's been such a great journey, to be honest. When I sit here and think about it, we've had a lot of time to think about things over the last few months, but yeah, Dad and I travelled around a lot, and Dad's handy on the tools, and and the funds were low when I was a kid, so I always had an older bike, but it was always well maintained and always competitive.
And so it was just a natural progression to go into the dirt track times, and that's when I first really got to know you, when you were doing the dirt tracks and supported by Paul Feeney. Oh, man, that must be nearly 20 years ago now, is it?
Yeah, it's a long time ago. I actually got, I seen a video on Facebook pop up from my first senior dirt track sort of big win back in 2004, and it seemed like just yesterday, but I think, I am actually getting on a bit, aren't I? Long time ago. Yeah, my parents didn't want me to do motocross, but Dad had a lot of knee injuries and injuries in general racing motocross, and Mum didn't really want to see me, get my wheels off the ground too much, and Dad was doing a lot of dirt track when I was young, so. And the local club in Goulburn back then had a track that was running club events, and we'd go over to Canberra. So I didn't really start racing competitive at a really, really young age, as in like 6, 7 years old, like some kids do. But I was always riding in the paddock and doing the local Goulburn club meetings. And then when I was about 10 years old, I was actually 96, so I was 9. Sorry, Dad took me over to Canberra for the Australian Dirt Track Championships, and I didn't have the correct kit. Or riding gear to ride in, and Dad bought me a set of leathers on the day. I squeezed into them, and he sent me out there. And I remember I just scraped into the final. I was for a lot of years I was the only non-Honda in the final. I had a little YZ80. It was an '84 model, and that was in '96. I made the final, and that bike got me through another couple of years actually, and. It was so much fun thinking about it. I remember when I went to that particular event, there was a couple of locals from Goulburn that were quite good, Trevor Marsh and Brian Gillespie, and they were racing against Brock Parks. And I remember them, trying to figure out a way to catch Brock Parks. And then in my category, I had Casey Stoner, but he wasn't the only one. I had Josh Waters and a bunch of other really fast riders. And I remember thinking and seeing Casey Stoner and think, whoa, that guy's my age. How is he going so fast? Because I was riding around on the dirt track at home and had a couple of mates, and I was always pretty quick. So, going to them at first few events when I was a kid, I was blown away with how competitive the field was.
Yeah, but it must have been a bit of an eye-opener. Then you wouldn't have known it at the time. He was a good rider and all the rest of it. To see him go on to what he did, was that any surprise to you?
It was a surprise for me when I was a kid because, when you're a kid, when I was 9 or 10 years old and racing I wouldn't say against Casey, when I was racing on the same track as Casey, I looked up to Mick Doohan and Troy Bayliss and them guys later on, and so when people would say to me, Casey's going to be, he's going to win a world championship, when you're that young, it's hard to imagine that a kid you're racing with is going to go on and be, Mick Doohan. A lot of people would say that, particularly Casey and Brock Parks. When I started dirt track, they were winning so much, and when I look back, there was never really a doubt that they were going to go to where they did. Casey I always explain to people, all kids were fast on their day, but Casey was always fast and he never made mistakes that kids make. He just was so mature as a young age, along with a bucket load of talent.
Yeah, well, he certainly did well with it as well. But getting back to you, you were plucked out of Goulburn, I suppose. Did it help that Paul Feeney also came from Goulburn and obviously had a friendship with your dad? That that would have been about 2004, 2005, I think, wouldn't it? When you started and you went overseas and you did the AMA Supermoto, you did some pretty good stuff here in the Supermoto when Mark Evard was promoting them back then at the turn of the century too.
Yeah, Paul pretty much got my professional career started. Coming through dirt track, it was just Dad and I, and got a lot of locals in Goulburn would help out where they could. And then when I went to senior dirt track, I'd met a guy who just finishing juniors, Tom White, his name is. He's a guy from Cowra that had a couple of really fast motorbikes, and wanted to step away from racing himself and still be a part of it and see his bikes out there. And when I turned senior, he pretty much just gave me two bikes to ride, and I'd just turn up and race these bikes, and that was my first real experience of being fully sponsored, I guess. And I did a couple of years with Tom, won my first Australian Dirt Track Championship with him, and then I always wanted to be a road racer, and when the funds are low, it's hard to start road racing at a young age. And Supermoto come along, and it was a good way to get out there and learn the road, learn the tyres, and Paul Feeney seen me. He seen me picking myself off the ground a fair bit at the Sydney Tennis Centre first year they had it, but he took note because I was from Goulburn, and I was one of the fastest guys at the track, but I barely even finished a race. I was just crashing so much, and he was so good. He just always would tell me it's going to be easy to make a fast guy stop crashing. It's going to be really hard to find a slow guy and make him fast. So his mentality was, really good, and it's probably sometimes got me in trouble because it was just always win by as much as possible, ride the bike as fast as you possibly could every lap you're out there. And it definitely got me in trouble a lot, but it helped me accelerate my career in Supermoto. And then once I was able to go to America, Paul actually come to the first event I done over there, and it was just a one-off race, and I done quite well. I finished second in the event, and from then on, the rest was history. When it comes to Supermoto, I just the ball started rolling, and it was such a great time racing over there.
So when that happened, that was basically the tick in the box. I've done that. Now's the time to take the big leap and go road racing. Yeah,
the year I won the AMA Supermoto Championship in 2008. Before the final round of the Supermoto season, in that year I'd already got on a bike, and KTM gave me a Super Duke, a naked bike to ride, and I'd been doing a few track days when it was possible, and I'd made the decision that 2009 I was going to start road racing. At the time, I was actually hoping I might be able to find a team in America that would give me a start, but I had no real experience. I had no experience at all on a road bike, barring a few track days, and I couldn't really find much help over there to get a start on a 600, and so I flew back to Eastern Creek before my final round in America, and I just rocked up at Eastern Creek for the final round of the 08 ASBK Championship, and I literally just started knocking on garage doors, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know who to talk to, and it was, looking back on it, it was, I can't believe I'd done that, to be honest. And I actually sat down that weekend with pretty much all the factory teams and some privateer teams, and I was really lucky. Through the Supermoto, Jay Foreman from Suzuki had talked a bit about me to Sean Giles and Phil Tayton, and so I went knocking on the door in there, and for whatever reason they gave me the time of the day, and I sat down in the truck there at the end of the day of the ASBK weekend, and Perry Morrison and Phil Tayton agreed to give me a test ride at Winton in a few months' time, because Sean had injured himself, and he was going to go for a few laps on a 600 to see how his body felt. And so I went back to America and was lucky enough to win the championship, and it was a really close finish, actually, and I won the championship, and that was it. It didn't really matter what happened that year. I was going to go road racing, and come home. Giles had picked me up on the way to Winton, and we went down there. I'd never ridden a sports bike before, really, other than I had a ZX6 at home that I'd done 2 or 3 track days on, and a club race. And rolled out of pit lane. It was spitting rain at Winton, freezing cold, and I thought I'd done a really terrible job, to be honest. I think I'd done a 1 minute 29 or 1 minute 28 lap time, which is about 5 or 6 seconds off the lap record back then. And we finished the day, and I thought that was it. I've done that. I have to go and buy my bike now because that didn't go well. And Phil walked over and said, "Here's a contract. If you like it, sign it, and I want you to race with the team next year." So it just, I was just so lucky. But I think I really think it helped that I rocked up to Eastern Creek that day on my own. I had my backpack on, and I didn't have my dad with me. Dad always said, it's going to look a lot better for you if you can stand on your own 2 feet. So I find I don't see that a lot anymore. I don't see a lot of guys putting themselves out there like that. But I think that went a long way back then.
Well, it would have, because you never know unless you have a go, and you proved that to yourself. And then you did pretty well in the super sport too, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a really good 2 years on the 600. I was really lucky. I had a 2-year contract with Suzuki. Well, not officially, but Phil had said to me, I want you here for 2 years, and you're going to learn in the first year, and I want you to win the championship in the second year. And if that happens, we'll look at putting you on a superbike. And throughout them 2 years, I remember just thinking how good it'd be to have a lap on the superbike. And Phil just would not even let me go out of pit lane for a lap on Josh or Giles' superbike. It was full focus on the 600. And the first year was a real steep learning curve. Jamie Stouffer and Brian Starring that year were just breaking lap records and flying around the track. It was so hard every time I went out of pit lane to try and learn and go fast. And I managed to win one race that year. It was really dodgy conditions at Phillip Island. It was rain, starting to dry, and Brian Starring had the weight of the world on his shoulders, about to win his first Supersport championship, and we're in a two-man battle. And I remember thinking, of all the times I'd been in the pressure cooker with the Supermoto when there's a championship on the line, you've got to ride a bit differently when there's no real reason to be beating your fellow opponent. So I sort of used that to my advantage, and I was just riding well above myself, and managed to win the race by a split second. So that was probably one of the highlights, really, winning a race in my first year. But it set me up well for the following year, where I was able to take a lot of wins and win the championship with nearly a full round to go.
Hasn't Troy got a lot to say? Well, we've got more of him next week when we have part 2 of his interesting interview. Now we go on to one of the legends of motorcycle racing in World Superbike and MotoGP, Colin Edwards, one of the real good guys of racing. He's got a lot to say, so sit back and enjoy this. Colin Edwards, thanks for joining me on Let's Talk Motorsport. Good to see you after so long.
It's been a while. How you doing, Braxy?
I'm good, mate, good. Yeah, it's been a long time since I saw you at the Grand Prix a few months ago, and what a year it's turning into, eh?
Yeah, seriously, I'm so sick of hearing the words coronavirus. It's wearing me out. We probably the first time in forever we went to a motocross race this last weekend, and Hayes actually raced. So we got out into the public and kept our social distancing, but it was fun.
So how's it affected you with the boot camp? Because by the look of it, you're booked out for years in advance of people trying to get over there and have a bit of fun and learn a bit.
Yeah, it's been tough. Obviously we had to cancel pre-coda, post-coda. We got folks coming in, still signing up for Halloween. I mean, we got lots of folks that want to come. It's just a matter of when all this stuff gets lifted and we can do it.
Yeah, well, I've wanted to bring a tour of people over there and sample your wares and probably learn a bit more about riding too. So don't forget us. I might be trying to book in there one time when you can guarantee that you'll be there for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. I'm at every boot camp. You know that.
I know. Well, I didn't know.
Doesn't operate without me. So.
Well, I didn't know. Seeing you've back into the GP paddock in the last couple of years with BT Sport, being on the other side of the microphone. Didn't know how long you'd be spending at home, because once you're in Europe, are you still commuting back and forth between every race?
Yeah, more or less. I don't do all of them. I don't even know how many there are this year. Supposed to be 20 or something like that. I'm signed up for 14 of them. But yeah, more or less, I'm still traveling, going across overseas to make it happen. This year, honestly, looking at everything, I don't want to get on a plane. I mean, I kind of want to know this is all going to die down. Then maybe next year I'll get on a plane. I don't know. I really don't know where it's going to go.
What's it like being on the other side of the camera?
It's actually easy because you just don't say. Well, actually, I'm from Texas, so it's kind of hard not to cuss, say bad words. But yeah, just don't say a few certain words and talk what you know, and have fun with it. It's pretty easy, but it's not just that. It's, we got Susie Perry, Neil Hodgson, Gavin, Keith Hewin, Michael Laverty. It's such a good team. It's just, and I miss the guys, to be honest with you. I'm not lying. It's fun to be around them at the racetrack, kind of analyzing everything, putting it all together, and portraying it to the public the best way we can.
No, I haven't seen it, but I know you did come across with your laconic way. I think the Texan sense of humour is very similar to the Aussie sense of humour, and you're half Aussie anyway. With your dad, Colin, what a great man he was. May he rest in peace. But he come from Benalla in Sydney, and I think we've got the sort of the same wavelength when it comes to not being so serious, but being serious when you have to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, you know me, I'm a people person. I want everybody to laugh, have a good time, and not too serious. And the TV is being on the other side of the camera is actually easy to make that happen. You just kind of roll with what I've always done, and that's just make everybody feel happy and be cordial. But no, it's a good team. It's a good dynamic, and we all help each other at the same time.
Now let's talk about the GP as it is. There's been a lot of talk. There's probably been a lot of talk this year. I spoke to Carmelo Espeleta a couple of weeks ago about the lay of the land and what they're trying to do. How does it affect a rider? Because by this time of the year we would have probably been in Le Mans, maybe getting closer to Barcelona. The boys would have had a few races under the belt. If you're not on a track doing that, from the Thursday to the Friday to the Sunday, doing it every week or so, what does that do to your reflexes, hand-to-eye coordination? Is it going to take a while for these guys to get back in it, or are they on just such a different plane that once they get back on the bike, it is the muscle memory will just come back in?
It will come back in, but I'm telling you, this has been the longest break ever. You go your month or two, whatever, December, January, then you're back at it in February. So you normally have maybe 2 months off a bike. Now we're talking about multiple months. They will get it back. It's not motocross. I mean, if you're a motocrosser right now, it's tough. You gotta stay on your toes and training every day. Road racing's a lot of mental capacity. You still have to be strong, don't get me wrong. But they'll get back at it. Some might take longer than others, and age might play a factor in that. I mean, generally it always does.
So how do you think that's going to affect your old teammate?
Interesting. But man, he's got his own little ranch. He's probably been riding as much as he can. Like I did here, I quarantined myself at home and boot camp. Hayes got into motocross in November. So we've basically been out of boot camp every day, riding, tinkering on bikes. Nobody else can come out there. We're kind of quarantine on our own. Very fortunate. If you're watching this program, yes, I do feel a little bit guilty that we have a place like boot camp, but it is what it is, and at times like this, we're taking advantage of it.
So do you think he's going to go on for another couple of years? Has this given him a bit more not going out the way he wanted to do? He wants to put in a full year and see how it goes?
Yes. You don't. I think there are a lot of people, honestly, this year that have gotten screwed. I mean, your high school graduates, your college graduates, on and on down the line. Yeah, I could keep going on forever. And somebody like Valentino, that maybe this was his last year, maybe next year last. We don't know. But you don't want to go out with a pandemic saying, all right, months have passed and now you're done and over. You want to go out doing it. So I think he's going to stick around.
So what was it like being his teammate going back a bit in time?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And I tell this story all the time. The best part was, it didn't matter what MotoGP rider you were. You always had people hanging out the back of the trucks wanting your autograph. And obviously we had hundreds and hundreds of people hanging out the back of our truck. And we both walked out of the same truck to get to the box. And I'd walk out. Everybody had their program turned to the Valentino page. And I'd walk out and they go, ah, thinking, it's Valentino. And they see me and they're, oh. And they're trying to find the page and see where I'm at. And I'd walk down. It just gave me just enough time to cruise down the steps and into the back of the garage. So that was probably the best part.
Well, you were basically, and I don't mean this derogatory or anything, but being the number 2 rider, were you his tyre tester in a lot of ways?
I'll agree with that. Yeah. At the same time, he could get away with running tires. I couldn't run. He would run such a hard casing in the rear sometimes, and I would try it, but I couldn't do it. Magello, I remember like it was yesterday, he ran a tire and won the race. And I tried it, and I could not get along with it. And, but I'm coming from a superbike background. I want to feel stuff move and kind of feel it work. He was happy with it being solid as a brick. And that was kind of a point in time when I thought, okay, well, front tires, we were good. We're very similar on that. But the rear tire situation, he set up the bike. We set up the bike very similar, but tire stuff, he could extract more out of a hard casing than I could. I just couldn't do it.
Now tell us this, there's always been rumours over the years that Rossi used to get the overnight specials. You were there, you were at the coalface, you're in the same garage with him. How much truth or wrongness is in that statement?
I'd say there's some truth, to be honest with you. I got one of those overnight specials in the first year we were teammates, and it was, what was that, 05. We were at Barcelona at the test where you win the brand new BMW if you're the fastest one there. And it was raining. Right at the last minute, Michelin came and said, hey, try this tire. Well, they gave Valentino one also. And I went out there, and it felt like a damn qualifying tire. And I put up the fastest time, and I knew I had nothing left. We had literally 30 seconds to go. I pulled in the garage, just waiting to see if somebody could beat it. Valentino was on a lap that could beat me on the same tire, and lost the front into the left down the back straightaway at Jerez. I would say luckily for me, not lucky for him, and I ended up winning the car. But that overnight tire was definitely a possibility that we all knew about. And yeah, I would say that's a good. But hey, there's a tire war going on. So what do you expect?
Yeah, it's very, very true. But was it hard to swallow knowing that everything was going to him and you were like the teammate, obviously, but you weren't getting enough? Did you ever feel that you weren't getting the focus that he was getting, and you could have thought you would have got better results if you'd been getting maybe in a different team, whatever, I don't know. But, it's, to me, you won 2 super... Sorry?
I know what you're saying, but you have to understand, before I ever signed the contract, it was discussed that I'm coming into the team to create harmony. They didn't ask me to come into the team and win. That was not really the plan. Me and Valentino were buddies. We always had been since the 8-hour. They wanted me to come in. Valentino requested me to come in. I was 31 when I came into the team. So when you look at the MotoGP guys nowadays, I mean, I was old as hell, at that time. So I came into the team to create harmony, be friends, be buddies, share data, share tires, test tires, do whatever you got to do to make it happen. I mean, at the end of the day, we always knew who the show pony was, and that was Valentino. I mean, we were all in the team together.
But you were there, you're a winner. You'd come off 2 Superbike World Championships. You didn't go straight into Valentino's teammate. You were in the Telefonica team for a couple of years, I think a couple of years before that happened. You're a winner. You're going out there to put it all on the line every time you go out in a motorbike, and you want the best reward. So was it hard to accept that you weren't going to be able to race for that World Championship that you did come into MotoGP to achieve? You wanted, after coming up 2 back-to-back, well, not back-to-back World Championships, but 2 World Championships in the World Superbike paddock?
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, you just said it. 2 World Championship Superbike, and I was happy with that. I honestly, did I want to go to the GP and dominate? Of course I did. Spent a year on the Aprilia, had a little barbecue action. Spent a year with Sete on Telefonica, had a good old time. And then being Valentino's teammate, it was, years were passing on, and it as far as when your prime is, I tried it, of course. I mean, everybody tries to stick with it forever, but the things that Valentino could do on the same bike I was on, I couldn't do them. And the paycheck of MotoGP was really good. So there's a time when you say, okay, well, I'm going to support this team, and we're going to do everything we can, and take a paycheck, a good paycheck, and ride as fast as I mean, as far as not riding hard, or that never occurred. I rode my balls off. I mean, every single race I entered, so that was not a question. There were just certain things he could do I couldn't do.
Well, there's a lot of things he's been able to do that no one else could do, so I'm sure you don't feel alone in that respect. But just before I go back 20 years to the year 2000, the Aprilia year, on probably the best sounding motorcycle I've ever heard, that Cube, the triple cylinder thing. But tell you what, I remember when Gary McCoy jumped on and I said, mate, get your space shuttle suit out, because you're going to get launched like an astronaut. So that would have been one of the most exhilarating and cautious times of your life, wouldn't it? Because you wouldn't have known what was going to happen. And like you said, you ended up being a bit of a barbecue Texan there at one stage.
Yeah, the Cube was very interesting because, okay, so I'd won the World Championship in 2002, and I think anybody that comes from Superbike over to Grand Prix, winning a championship, cocky is not the word, but you're confident. You obviously won the championship, so you're riding good, everything's working good. And when I brought my leather suit, my gear bag into the Aprilia truck at Valencia, I just remember Regis Laconi looking at, like, walking by him. He's like, good luck. And I thought, ooh, that's not good. I mean, it didn't sound good. He was being Frenchy, arrogant, whatever that might have been. I thought, that doesn't sound good. But you talk about a learning year. Oh my God. I mean, that was the first bike with kind of full electronics, servos, working the butterflies. So as far as testing and my knowledge into the future of what was going to happen, that was a massive year. The bike wasn't the greatest. It should have stayed a car motor. That should have never been a motorcycle motor, but it was what it was.
Yeah, well, it still sounds, to this day, I think it was still the best sounding motorcycle we heard, especially on full noise, and it was bloody quick in a straight line.
It was that's for sure. I mean, that thing would loop out in 5th gear at Mugello. If you stayed in it, it would loop out, and you had to literally breathe it, or go into the electronics and just start taking power away. It was fast. It was quick.
Now, like it's 20 years this year since that monumental battle, you and Troy, that people still, some consider one of the greatest superbike races of all time. I think it's, well, the last few laps is probably the most intense superbike battle we've seen. Do you pinch yourself now? People, people bring it up. I've brought it up again. You're probably thinking, oh, not this one again. But 20 years, it's gone bloody quick too, hasn't it?
I know, it's crazy. That just means I'm an old fart, but I'm having fun. I'm having fun being an old dude, hanging out with my boy. I never even thought about it. I did my whole MotoGP career, and it wasn't really till like the end of my MotoGP career I sat back and thought. I was like, holy crap, the last race I won was Imola 2002. That was the last one. Won the 8-hour just before that with Kato. I'd won the 8-hour Valentino the year before that. I'd won, obviously, a bunch of races in World Superbike. Never won a MotoGP race, but I was like, that's weird to think about. That's the last race I've won, and I've still been racing for, 12 years after that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned never win. I remember being Assen 06. I actually nearly cried that last lap, being in pit lane, working with Dorna when you and Nicky Hayden had that monumental duel to the very end of the race. And mate, there's no words that can describe it.
Hey, all I can say about that is obviously that stung a little bit. I did everything I could do. Nicky came around, kind of showed me a wheel on the outside. I went a little deep. I crashed, obviously. And I was a little, whatever. It's racing. I'm not a crasher on the last lap. And I promise you, the day that he passed, like, any thought I had of 2006 Assen completely went away. And I was super happy that he won it, to be honest with you. Just to have, because his was too short. His time was too short. And just to have some emotion in there, I was happy he won that one.
Yeah, well, and I suppose you helped the fellow American on the way to his world championship, his one and only championship. Yeah. And it's yesterday was I got a thing on my Facebook timeline, 3 years since he had that tragic accident, and like you said, I still get choked up. He was a great guy, great family, and had sadly taken too soon. But one of the nicest guys in the paddock. Something about you guys from the south of the United States. He's the pardon me, the Kentucky kid. You're the Texas Tornado. Mate, you always had time for people. He had always had time for people. But to be in part of that moment in history of that racing, we fast forward to Valencia at the end of the year when him and Rossi were fighting it out. And then you had your old adversary come in with Troy Bayliss coming in for that wildcard ride. That was probably another standout for you as well.
Yeah, no, that was such a weird race. Obviously, we're teammates. We're trying to do the team thing and figure this out, how to win Valentino the World Championship. And when he crashed, lost the front, I think turn 2, I was confused. I didn't know if I was supposed to drop back, let him in front, whatever. And at the end of the day, Bayliss, he just strummed all of us. So it worked out the way it should have worked out, the way it did work out. And happy. I was so happy for Bayliss that day, to be honest with you. We might have been tough competitors, but to come over in a one-off ride and kick all of our butts, that was pretty monumental.
It was very special to be there as well, to see an Aussie get up. And, he told a few people what he thought of it with that one-off chance. But particularly Livio, I think he was on the end of his feelings at the time. But, you and getting back to that with you and him being rivals and everything, it was a different paddock back then too, wasn't it, compared to what the Superbike and more so the MotoGP paddock is now. It's has the fun been taken out of a lot, and you're on the other side of the fence now seeing it from another angle?
The World Superbike paddock was always fun. I don't know how else to say it. You couldn't wait for a weekend to arrive because, you would barbecue with your friends and hang out, and everybody kind of knew everybody, and it was a big family get together more or less. And you'd be in the Corona tent one night, you'd be in the Castrol Honda tent the other night, and family. That's all I can say. Then going to Grand Prix, it was just different. You know, it's more business. Anytime you put more money into the pot, it always turns into business. So, and that's what it came to.
And it's changed since you've left the paddock as well. Now with it, when you're talking to them, everything seems to be rehearsed. You got the PR man beside you saying you can say this, you can't say that. There's a bit of that passion and that the rawness of the emotion and everything has been taken out of it a little bit.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, I could say that's been going on forever, to be honest with you. I mean, I remember, and I'm not saying anything bad about Wayne or Kevin or Eddie back in the 80s, but I just remember watching their interviews, and you could sit there, and if you watch them, you don't know if they're in Hockenheim or if they're in Austria. It's just kind of the same, you know, I don't know. It was just hard to pick apart where they were, the emotion that was involved. It just kind of came across a little bit rehearsed, scripted, let's say. And I always thought, you know what, if I make it there, when I make it there, I'm just going to say exactly what's on my brain, and you'll know that we're in Germany, or you'll know that we're in Donington, and kind of make it different. And I'm not saying I was anything different than Norm, but I think what you're asking me, that's kind of been going on for a while. And I mean, you could even look at the Supercross crowd here. Every time they get on the podium, it's kind of the same old. Sometimes it's like a scripted thing at the end. There's a couple of them that will really speak their mind in the beginning. But yeah, you're always trying to take care of the people that support you. So it's not a bad thing. It's just you have to mention a few names and of the folks that are putting money in.
Now, when you left and you went into the CRTs and teams and everything, was it very hard to keep your motivation up on those things that weren't the best at the time?
Yeah, it was. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it was a new thing. It was keeping bikes on the in the grid, and I thought at that time we had a pretty decent team to make it happen. That BMW, whatever the hell that thing was, Suter framed, that was a hunk of junk. Once we went to the Cowie motor and the oh hell, I can't even remember what frame it was, but it all worked out. Then we got the Yamahas in the end, the third year. But in the end of the day, yeah, when you look back, it's like, just forget all this and give us last year's bikes from some factory, and we'll run them. It would have been way better.
Do you miss the racing?
Hell no, I don't miss it at all. I'm not a racer anymore. I'm a dad, and I'm a moto dad at the moment, and loving every minute of it. So, yeah, no, I do not miss it.
So what made you come to the Island Classic 3 years ago then and put yourself in that frame?
You said the magic word 3 years ago. And that was still, and you know, that wasn't even, and there was just way too much oil and smoke and white puffs of smoke to, yeah, that was a crazy weekend. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but it was a little bit more risk than I was expecting.
You didn't expect them to be riding so hard, did you?
Oh no, they're riding hard, that's for damn sure. Which, you know, I was riding hard too on a bike that I didn't know, and I think everybody was kind of in the same boat. But yeah, if you're gonna go there, you need some testing time and go put the miles in. I was going out there to have a good time, have some fun, and yeah, we did. That's exactly what we did.
You on a bike nearly every day then when you can? Like you said, you've been in self-quarantine down at the boot camp?
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing around. I got a 450 from Yamaha. If we go to the local track, I'll go ride. not as special as I once was, but I go out and have a good time. But yeah, we're our life is motorcycles, always has been. So we're always on 'em.
All right, mate. Well, I better let you go. I better thank you for your time. But you've got to write a book these days. If you have written a book, I haven't seen it. But if you need a hand, mate, I think you could tell some stories that you can't say here. Well, maybe if you come back on and join me on Let's Talk Motorsport, you can delve into that behind the scenes action, so to speak.
Oh yeah. I've got lots and lots of stories, including turning over Max Biaggi's smart car. So yeah, we've got lots of them.
And I must say, thanks for teaching me craps at Las Vegas at John Hopkins' wedding. I walked away with $600 in front that night, so I was pretty happy with that one.
You got it. Craps is the only game to play.
It is, mate. And, mate, all the best. Say good day to your family for us, Alyssa and Co and everything. Great to catch up with you, and hopefully you can take some time out of your schedule again. And I'll keep in touch with you about bringing some people over the boot camp. I don't think I'd have too many problems filling the tickets up when it's safe to do some international travel again.
You got it, man. Can't wait to see you. Y'all come on anytime.
All right, mate. Thank you very much for joining us, mate. Always a pleasure, Cole. Colin Edwards, what a laconic character he is. And as you can probably gather, I could talk to him for hours. Always got a story to tell, always with a smile. What a great bloke. Now, he mentioned the Texas Tornado Boot Camp. I've wanted to go over there for a few years with a few people. So keep it in mind, we might be able to arrange a trip next year where he'll be on hand personally to show us his guidance and tuition of what he knows about racing, plus the rifle range and a few other things. But in the meantime, thanks to Matt and thanks to Troy for being a part of the show. Also, bear in mind our website. We've got all the episodes there where you can watch them on demand whenever you want. We want your feedback. We also want a bit more of show us what you've got. So if you've got a bike in the shed that's your pride and joy, let us know about it. In the meantime, be safe, be good, and now Mark Bracks. Until next week, see you later on Let's Talk Motorsport.